Welcome to Storybook Michelle. Finding Nemo. Once upon a time, in the big blue ocean, on the edge of the Great Barrier Reef, a mom and dad clownfish were getting ready for their baby eggs to hatch. We still have to name them. I like Nemo, said Coral, the mother fish. Nemo? Asked Marlin, the proud father. Suddenly, a giant barracuda appeared. Marlin tried to stop him, but the barracuda knocked him out cold. When Marlin awoke, the ocean was deserted, and Coral and their baby eggs were all gone. No! Marlin cried. And then noticed one tiny, slightly damaged egg left behind. Marlin cradled the egg in his fins and said, I promise I'll never let anything happen to you, Nemo. From that time on, Marlin was very protective of his son. Especially since Nemo was born with his right fin smaller than his left, he barely let Nemo out of his sight. First day of school, wake up! Nemo yelled as he bounced on his father to wake him up. I don't want to go to school, groaned Marlin, still half asleep. Not you, Dad, me, said Nemo excitedly. Are you sure you want to go to school this year? Asked Marlin. Nemo definitely wanted to go to school. Now, what's the one thing we have to remember about the ocean? Marlin asked his son. It's not safe, replied Nemo, who had been asked this many times. As they swam along, Nemo asked his dad lots of questions. How old are sea turtles? I don't know. But if I ever meet a sea turtle, I'll ask him, okay? Answered Marlin. Marlin wanted to teach Nemo many things, but he worried that his son's curiosity might lead him into trouble. At the schoolyard, there were fish kids and parents swimming around everywhere. When the teacher, Mr. Ray, arrived, all the kids swam onto his back. Nemo's dad whispered to Mr. Ray, Just so you know, my son has a little fin. Don't worry, we're gonna stay together as a group, said Mr. Ray. So Marlin stayed back with the other dads as the class swam off.
Be safe.
But then one of the parents told him the kids were going to the drop-off. The drop-off? Yelled Marlin. What? Are you insane? At the drop-off, Nemo and his new school friends wandered off from the rest of the class to stare over the edge of the Great Barrier Reef into the deep, mysterious ocean. A little way out, a boat was floating on the water's surface. Marlin overheard Nemo and his new friends competing with each other to swim out over a steep cliff. Come on, Nemo! How far can you go? His friends shouted. Marlin panicked and said, Nemo, you know you can't swim well.
No, it's not okay. You shouldn't be anywhere near here.
Oh my God! Swimming out the
Nemo darted up toward the boat on the surface. Just as Nemo began to swim back, a diver appeared behind him and trapped him inside a net. Dad, help me! He couldn't escape. The diver took Nemo back to the boat and sped off, accidentally knocking his scuba mask overboard. Marlin chased after the boat as quickly as he could, but it was too fast. He lost sight of the boat and his son. Marlin searched his son everywhere. Has anybody seen a boat? Marlin soon bumped into the blue tank fish named Dory, who offered to help. I've seen that boat, and it went this way. Follow me, Dory said. When Marlin followed, Dory whirled around. Marlin started following Dory, when suddenly Dory said, Stop following me. On this, Marlin said, You promised me to show the way where that boat went. Dory looked surprised, then shook her head sadly. I'm so sorry, see, I suffer from short-term memory loss. Figuring Dory couldn't help him, Marlin turned to leave and found himself face to face with a shark, Bruce. Bruce invited Dory and Marlin to a get-together in an old sunken ship. Inside the ship were 2 other sharks, and together they pledged, I'm a nice shark, not a mindless eating machine. Fish are friends, not food. As they spoke, Marlin looked up and saw the diver's mask. Dory noticed some writing on the strap. It might be a clue to help them in finding Nemo. Marlin and Dory quickly left the party carrying the mask. Miles away, Nemo had been taken to a dentist's office in Sydney, Australia. A goofy gang of tropical fish lived there. The fish and their friend Nigel, a pelican, passed the time by watching the dentist work. That night, Nemo learned that he would be given to Dala, the dentist's niece. The tank gang warned him that Dala's fish never lived for very long. Nemo's new friends didn't want anything bad happen to him. The leader Gil took charge and said, We're going to help him escape. Gil explained that if someone could jam the water filter, the dentist would take the fish out of the tank to clean it. When he put the fish in the plastic bags, they could escape by rolling out the window and into the harbor. But who would be brave enough to break the dangerous filter? Meanwhile, deep in the ocean, Dory and Marlin were in a dark canyon. Marlin struggled to hold on to the lighted antenna of a dangerous anglerfish so that Dory could read what was written on the mask. P. Sherman, 42, Wallaby Way, Sydney. They finally knew where Nemo was. Marlin and Dory headed to Sydney. Suddenly, Dory bumped into a teeny tiny jellyfish called Squishy. I shall call him Squishy, and he shall be mine. Soon, they were surrounded by an entire forest of deadly jellyfish. The jellyfish stung Dory and Marlin too, making them feel weak and tired. As the ocean faded around him, the last thing Marlin saw was the shadow of a giant sea turtle. When Marlin woke up, he was lying on the sea turtle's shell. The turtle introduced himself. Dude, name's Crush. Marlin told Crush and his son Squirt the story of his search for Nemo. Squirt told the story to a lobster. The lobster told a dolphin. And soon the news spread all the way to Sydney, where Nigel the pelican heard it. Nigel sped off to the dentist's office to tell Nemo. Your dad's been fighting the entire ocean looking for you. And the word is, he's headed this way right now, to Sydney, said Nigel. Really? Nemo was inspired by his father's bravery and so happy to hear that and realized if he was ever going to get home, he had to be brave too. He took a deep breath and carefully jammed a pebble with the tank's filter, stopping its swirling blades. Soon, the tank would be so dirty, the dentist would have to clean it. Outside Sydney, Marlin was beginning to think they were lost. In the distance, a huge blue whale was swimming toward them. Can you give us directions? Dory asked in her best whale voice. Then the whale sucked them into its mouth. Marlin began to panic. He just knew the whale was going to eat them. I promised I'd never let anything happen to him, he said sadly. You can never let anything happen to him. Then nothing would happen to him, Dory replied. To their surprise, the whale carried them to Sydney Harbour and expelled them through its blowhole.
Sydney!
Come on, Dory.
The next morning, the tank was still clean. The filter had been changed during the night, ruining their escape plan. Then the dentist scooped up Nemo and placed him in a plastic bag for Dalla's birthday present. Nemo remembered something Gil once said, all drains lead to the ocean. If Nemo pretended to be dead, the dentist would send him down the drain. He would be back home in the ocean in no time. The dentist started to hand Dalla the bag, but then he saw Nemo inside, belly up. Nemo winked at his friends. He was only pretending to be dead. The gang cheered and shouted, "He's going to get flushed down the toilet. He's going to get out of here." That same morning, Nigel finally met Marlin&Dory. I gotta find my son Nemo. I can take you to your son. Nigel flew them straight to the dentist's office. The pelican soared inside with the 2 fish in his beak. Dalla had just arrived. She was ready for a teeth cleaning and for her birthday present. Yay, fishy, 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 she cheered. Suddenly, Nigel, Marlin, and Dory stormed into the office through a window. But Marlin saw Nemo floating upside down in the bag. Nemo! And he thought that his son was dead. Nigel returned to the harbor. He dropped Marlin and Dory into the water. Marlin swam out to sea, leaving Dory. He said, "It's over, Dory. We were too late. I'm going home now." With a heavy heart, he slowly started swimming back home, alone. Marlin was too heartbroken. He swam away. After Marlin left, "Ring of fire!" Gil cried. Dalla screamed. She threw Nemo's bag into the air, and it landed on a tray of sharp dental tools. The bag popped. Gil flipped inside onto the tray beside Nemo, which sent Nemo flying toward the dentist's sink and down the drain. Nemo swam out of a nearby pipe. He had been flushed. Nemo spotted Dory swimming in circles. "Are you alright? I'm Nemo." Nemo introduced himself. Without Marlin, Dory couldn't remember where she was or how she got there. Even when Nemo popped out from a nearby pipe and introduced himself, she didn't recognize the name. Where are we anyways? Sydney P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney, she cried, suddenly remembering all that had happened. Oh, you're Nemo! Dory hugged him happily. Together, Nemo and Dory searched for Marlin, spotting him in the nearby fishing grounds. Daddy! Nemo! I'm coming, Nemo! Finally, they saw each other. As they swam towards each other, a big net dropped into the water and captured lots of fish, including Dory. But Nemo knew exactly what to do and tried to help them bravely. Nemo said, "Tell all the fish to swim down." Together, the fish swam down until the net broke. Everyone was free. Several weeks later, Nemo was back home and ready for school. This time, Marlin was ready too. He knew that his son could take care of himself. Nemo waved as he swam away. He swam back and hugged Marlin and said,
Love you, Dad.
I love you too, son.
Dad, you can let go now.
Sorry. Now go have an adventure.
Bye, Elmo.
Nemo.
Nemo. Bye, Nemo. See you at the school, Dory. Bye,
Bye, son.
"Good night. Sleep tight."
Where'd the fish go? Come on, Peach. Now what?